I really hope you guys aren't getting tired of the prince because his time is definitely now, and I truly do believe that. While Vegeta seems to be well on his way to maybe even becoming a god in his own right, his past has been very flirtatious with death, and in the battle against Majin Buu, Vegeta had his turn in the afterlife, taking his own life in an attempt to defeat Buu before he could begin his destruction across the earth. His time in the afterlife, however, is quite mysterious to say the least, and the things that he may have gotten into in the other world of the spirit as well. Now, technically, especially right before his death, Vegeta would have been looked at as a villain even though he sacrificed himself to destroy Buu. This in no way balanced out the countless lives he'd taken over the years, as well as those he'd taken directly before this by blowing up the stadium at the World Tournament. Since the destruction of planet Vegeta and the genocide of the Saiyans, Vegeta had lost all contact with the Saiyan race since coming to Earth and aligning himself with the Z Fighters after Raditz' death and killing Nappa himself, but these souls roam the afterlife as well, so what if Vegeta were to reunite with his Saiyan brethren? Once he was delivered to Otherworld, the story of Vegeta came to a halt while the battle on Earth continued that resulted in Fusion, Super Saiyan 3, and funny enough, a Super Saiyan 3 fusion, all behind Vegeta's back, being kept almost in secret by Goku. This is an original fan-made short story called Dragon Ball Afterlife, as we dive deep into the spirit world after Vegeta's death at the hands of himself really, in order to save the universe. His pride had never wavered though, as he still holds himself in high standards in regards to the rest of the Saiyans, but meeting them again after all of these years with all of these changes and developments he's gone through has put Vegeta on another level both physically and mentally to a degree, and now is his time to show his ancestors what the true power of a Saiyan really is. This fan manga was found straight off of the Dragon Ball Fan Manga Facebook page, so if you guys want to check out Dragon Ball Afterlife for yourselves, the link to where I personally found this will be down below in the description box, so be sure to go check that out for all types of classic fan manga pieces that you may not be able to find too easily in other places. Before we go any further, I do want to thank you guys so much because we are so close to 400k guys. I can taste it, and I know as long as we're grinding, you fellas got my back. So if you are new here and haven't done so already, consider leaving a like on this video to kind of help us out in the algorithm to keep the momentum up, and also that little red button down there that says sub goes such a long way to helping us reach 400k guys, so thanks again. Also, don't forget to turn those notifications on to never miss an anime upload as soon as they go live, and if you haven't already, be sure to follow on both Twitch and Twitter to stay up with me and all Dragon Ball related updates. But without further ado, in a time where Vegeta is definitely, in my opinion, in the spotlight, there has never been a better time to give him his flowers while he's still here and celebrate the character that he's become and just how insanely far he's gone through his own drive and determination. Whether he actually becomes a god of destruction or not, Vegeta is destined for some type of greatness in my eyes, but the Saiyan race has been abused and eradicated, leaving he and less than a handful left in his universe. But today, Vegeta will not only reconcile with his brothers, but boast his progression to the very person whom he thinks was a very significant factor in his people's destruction. As our story begins, we see Vegeta descending down from the skies into the underworld. With his halo overhead, Vegeta lands atop a cliff, but at the base of it and walking over his way are some very familiar looking faces. So this is the other world, huh? Vegeta thinks to himself, smirking. Walking towards him now are Raditz, his former subordinate, and a face we haven't seen in forever, one of Bardock's best friends, Tora. "How have you been, Raditz?" a voice says from the Saiyan side, startling him. "Who's asking?" Raditz says, turning around aggressively. But when he sees who's approached him, his jaw completely drops after seeing Vegeta of all people here in the afterlife now. "You seem as weak as ever, Raditz," Vegeta says, mocking him. This is when an explosion of conversation erupts as the other Saiyans take note of Vegeta's presence here now as well. "What? Vegeta is here?" someone asks, with a ton of pushing and shoving going on to see the prince, as others mention, "So he's finally joined us." This is when the king himself, Vegeta, approaches his son, greeting him as they meet once again. This reception certainly isn't the same for Vegeta, however, as he says, What do you want, old man? This is when King Vegeta leans in closely to his son and tells him that after all this time, he must see the legendary form of the Super Saiyan. Show me, he says. Vegeta, of course, would never miss an opportunity to display his powers, especially to the other Saiyans, as he tells his father, "You don't have to tell me twice. I'm way ahead of you," he says. "Prepare to be amazed, trash." In this manga, Vegeta definitely retains his sense of superiority over the other Saiyans, even his father, which I assume is rightfully so after all he's done and been through since their extermination, and this is when he begins to power up. As Vegeta's power soars in front of his constituents, everyone looks on in awe as his hair and aura change. Then, his transformation completes. "Well," Vegeta says, having taken it a step further and even transformed into a Super Saiyan 2 for some reason. "Take it all in while you can," he says, "you low-class weaklings." This is the first time Vegeta has had the chance to not only be back in contact with the Saiyans, but also the opportunity to show off the power that he's gained over the years. A power that was only a myth or a legend throughout his entire childhood, until he himself became that legend, so I'm happy to more or less see Vegeta, strut his stuff right now. The Saiyans are dumbfounded at what just happened to Vegeta, as his body and demeanor have changed completely, but something else seems to be bothering them now as well. Prince Vegeta," Bardock says as he walks up to him. "What happened to your tail?" A little caught off guard by this, Vegeta is a bit confused because his tail has been gone since the early days of Dragon Ball Z. "Your tail is the true mark of a Saiyan," Bardock states, as the energy in the room begins to slightly shift a little bit. As Vegeta starts to become slightly embarrassed now, as he remembers his tail is gone as well, the heckling begins as all of the other Saiyans begin to laugh, saying how it's true. His tail is gone and mocking his so-called goofy new look now. "Shut up," Vegeta stutters as they continue to heckle him. "Do you idiots not sense how much my power has grown?" he asks. I thought this was pretty funny as well, as Bardock tells them of course they don't. That would be absurd. This had me dying, as the Saiyans, since they're no longer alive, no longer possess their scouters, so they have no way to detect power levels anymore. This is when a full moon is seen overhead, and to a little more of the other Saiyan style, they all begin to transform thanks to their tails into great apes. The Saiyans, now transformed into what I'm sure they would consider is the true form of the Saiyans, show off their power to Vegeta now, who powers down from his form after being heckled to death by his relatives. When I came across this story for the first time, I thought it was pretty funny and really just a great callback to the older days of Dragon Ball before power levels just absolutely skyrocketed to the point of no return. It's been so long since we've seen somebody use their scouter to read a power level that it's pretty easy to forget that for a while, a majority of beings use this to scout their enemies. Of course, these would be of no use now, I'm sure, since by the end of the Frieza saga particularly, scouters could barely handle reading the highest power levels that there were back then, so at the point we're at now, they're pretty much obsolete. Let me know what you guys thought of Dragon Ball Afterlife though down below. A really cool and pretty funny short story centered around Vegeta, so of course I had to check this out and bring it to you guys. Hopefully in the next few months though, there will be no questions whatsoever as to where Vegeta stands amongst other mortals, and maybe one day we'll even be calling him Lord Vegeta. Yeah, I like how that sounds a lot actually.